Okay, Dwight, based on what we just discussed, did you want to go ahead and pay cash for the vehicle service agreement, or would you prefer we go ahead and just add it to the monthly payment?
Well, you know, Sean, I'm interested, but quite frankly, I don't think it's worth the 1,500. But I would be willing to pay the 800 because the coverage sounds like it works for me.
Okay, well, I can appreciate that, Dwight, and let me just remind you why we chose the coverage that we chose for you and your family today. Basically, the reason we chose the 7-year, 100,000 mile, zero deductible platinum coverage is because that's the coverage that best meets your needs. In fact, if you'll recall, one of the reasons you said you weren't initially interested in the vehicle service agreement was because you actually purchased one on a previous vehicle. You had a problem with that vehicle. In fact, if I recall, it was the CD player that went out.
Yeah.
You brought that vehicle in for the repair and they wouldn't pay for the coverage. Isn't that correct?
Yep.
If you recall, we talked about there are two different types of coverages. There's what we call our exclusionary policy, which is our most comprehensive policy. It's the most factory-like coverage that we offer. Basically what that means is everything is covered except for what is excluded and listed in a small box. And the things that are listed in that small box are generally wear items such as rubber, shiny metals, glass, that sort of thing. And those things aren't even covered under your factory warranty. Now the other type of coverage, which was the coverage you had on your last vehicle, is what we call named peril or gold or stated component. And what that means is it has to be listed in order to be covered. And if it's not listed, it's not covered.
Oh.
And that is much more limited in nature or scope. And so what we're offering you here today is the platinum or the exclusionary coverage. And if you had had that type of coverage originally, it would have paid for that repair. So we didn't want you to find yourself in that same position again in the future. So we've chosen maybe the more expensive coverage, but again, it's the right coverage for you and your family. So I can appreciate it's a little more expensive, but I think it's probably the right way to go. So did you want to go ahead and pay cash for it, or would you like me to add it to your monthly payment?
You're doing good, and it makes sense to me, and I do apologize. I made my first offer based on the previous one that I'd purchased
no
before.
problem. Don't worry about it.
But so I'm comfortable. I'll give you $1,000 and we can kind of move on, and I'm good.
You know what, and I can appreciate that, Dwight. And in fact, the way you're feeling right now is precisely why we here have chosen to adopt what's called a fair and consistent pricing policy. And let me explain to you more in detail what we mean by that. You see, before we adopted this philosophy, the first thing we did is we did research with our customers. And what we wanted to learn as a result of this research was how did our customers want us to do business with them in the future moving forward. And what we learned from this research is basically three things. We learned, first of all, that they want us to offer products of value. Secondly, they wanted us to offer products of value at a competitive price. And thirdly, and maybe most importantly, they want us to offer a fair and consistent price with those products. They told us in no uncertain terms that they did not feel comfortable doing business in an environment where they had to worry about whether or not someone might have come in the day before them, bought the same coverage on the same vehicle, and paid a lower price than they were being asked to pay. And they certainly didn't feel comfortable worrying about whether or not someone might come in the next day and get the same coverage on the same vehicle and pay less. So as a result of this policy, which was really driven by our customers, I can assure you that whoever sat there yesterday looking at the same coverage on the same vehicle either paid the price I'm asking you to pay or they didn't buy it. Okay. And as a result of this policy, I can also assure you whoever sits there tomorrow looking at the same coverage on the same vehicle, they either pay this price or they won't buy it. What's absolutely critical to understand, though, Dwight, is that discounting simply isn't an option. Because if I discount the product for you, then I will have lied to the customer yesterday and won't be able to say the same thing to the customer tomorrow. In other words, if I discount the product for you, I wouldn't just be selling the product. Frankly, I'd be selling my credibility, and my credibility just isn't for sale. Now, please don't misinterpret my enthusiasm for pressure, Dwight, because as I mentioned earlier, if you didn't see the value in the products and services we're offering for the price we're asking you to pay, then we certainly wouldn't expect you to take advantage of them. But again, that's not my decision, that's yours. How would you like to proceed? Did you want to go ahead and pay cash, or would you like me to add it to the monthly payments?
Wow. Well, I can obviously tell you're pretty serious about this, and it really sounds good, Sean. Unfortunately, I don't pay retail for much of anything, so I like the product. You need to sell it. I'd like to buy it. I'll offer you $1,200, and can we just write this up?
Dwight, another option that might work for us is we could go from a 7-year program to a 6-year program. Now let me explain to you why I'm recommending this. The reason I'm recommending this is because as long as your driving habits don't change, it's not going to affect you, because you're going to run out of coverage based on the mileage that you're driving on your vehicle, not time anyway. And so by going from a 7-year program to a 6-year program, you're going to save a little money, but it shouldn't affect you, again, as long as your driving habits don't change. How would that sound?
So is the coverage the same for the 6 year?
Yeah, identical coverage. The only difference is it's only for 6 years instead of 7 years. And again, as long as you continue to drive the number of miles you've been driving, it's not going to have an impact on you.
Save us a couple bucks?
Yeah, save you a few bucks.
All right. I'll do the 6 year then.
Okay, great. Now, would you like to go ahead and pay cash for it, or would you like me to go ahead and include in monthly payments?
Go ahead and put it in the payment.
All right, go ahead and add it to the payment. We'll do that.